one of our partners and salesmen years ago went to a course for a certified aging in place specialist course. And so we basically learned the ins and outs, and some of it was common sense, and some of it was not really common sense. We had already worked for a lot of senior citizens at that point when he actually did that course, so we already had a lot of experience, and it really polished us up on what we should be thinking with. Some of it's like colors, like when you're, the importance of light. Actually, as people age, they really need more light. So making sure that the bathrooms that we install are lit sufficiently is important. Or a change in color, like if there's going to be a step, and it's very helpful to have something that you can clearly see that you're getting ready to go down a step, which is a little less important here in Florida because there's a lot of our houses, at least, are kind of sprawling on the slab and there's not a lot of steps. But in Virginia, that's an issue. But in a shower, I once did some research for a postcard that I mailed out about 10 years ago. And I did the research at that time, and it was very interesting. I found that the number one fear of senior citizens was not the fear of dying. That was actually number 10 on the list. Mm-hmm. The number one fear was loss of independence. So we know that's per survey, and it was a big survey. That's important, So, and we found that the most dangerous room in the house, honestly, the most dangerous room anywhere, which surprised me because I'm from Virginia. We get ice a couple months out of the year. We get snow and so forth. And I've slipped a few times on the snow and ice. I thought that would have been like the number one reason that you broke your hip. And certainly there's a big chunk of country that's above Virginia, in the United States. But in the United States, that's not it. It's actually the bathroom. The bathroom is the most dangerous room in the house, and it's where most of the slips and falls happen. And they happen a lot of times getting in and out of a bathtub. So, of course, like Aaron has said here, we get a lot of requests for tub-to-shower conversions. But some people, when we're doing their bathroom, maybe they're thinking that this is a forever home, but maybe they're semi-retired. They're not really looking, 20 years from now for them and their loved ones. Some of them are, and they're concerned about that. Some of them just want it to be very, very attractive, and they don't want to add a lot of safety type things in the shower. You might not even want a seat. You might not need a seat. You might not need the safety bars. So one thing that we do, which is pretty special, I think, because we are really designing this shower to last. I mean, with the waterproofing that we put in and the high quality products, it should last for sure as long as you want it to last.
That's right.
So what we do is we put blocking, which is basically big chunky wood that we can put bolts into, and we put it everywhere where you could in the future need a seat or any kind of safety bars in your shower. We put it behind everything, even if you're doing an acrylic shower, if you're doing a tiled shower. So in the future, you can call us back. We have pictures of all this, by the way, too. So you could call us back and say, I slipped and fell, I have a broken hip, I'm getting out of the rehab center, and I will need a transfer seat or something like that. We know how to make a wheelchair accessible bathroom, by the way. If you're at that stage, we can do that. That's part of the certified aging in place. You have to know how, the turn angles, the sinks, the room for the knees. There's all kinds of stuff like that.
That's right.
We're not normally designing that, but there's an in-between phase where you might have a shower with a low curb, but you need some help getting in and you need to be able to sit down. One of the things that I found to be very important in the designs, and I see it in the pictures when all the jobs that we're designing, we include this often, is having a diverter valve. So let's just say it takes you, my mother-in-law is 89 years old right now. So I have these in her bathroom at my house. She lives with us.
Yeah.
So I see how effective this is. She's at the point where she doesn't want to shower every day, showering, she showers a few times a week, but it takes her time to move around. She has rehab people come into the house. She was in rehab for a month last year. This is where she's at physically. But she doesn't really have a problem getting in the shower, but she takes her time and she's safe about it. So it's nice to have a seat in there and then to not have the water running the whole time. So sometimes you can do shower designs where you have to turn the water on, and you have to let it warm up. And then if you're now trying to get in there and you want to take 5 or 10 minutes to get safely seated in the shower, or when you want to dry off and leave, that's a barrier. So what we'll do a lot of times is we can take a diverter valve, which basically is a three-way thing. So you have like what's called a mixing valve. Well, you can tell. Why don't you tell us about the mixing valve and the diverter near the seat?
Sure. Yeah. So a really common way to do it is you do it a couple of different ways, but the main way that he's talking about is you'll have a main valve that mixes the water, mixes the hot and cold. It controls both the volume of water coming out and the temperature of the water. Then you can have a diverter valve as well, and you can set that wherever you might like it. That diverter valve allows you to transfer the water from your main head to a secondary hand shower, or to have them both going at the same time. So you can set it up so you can actually have your valve, you turn the water on, and then you transfer it over to the other shower head. Another way that we do it, and probably when we're talking about a bench and that sort of a setup, the most common thing we'll do is actually set up with what's called a thermostatic valve. So you have a valve that controls only temperature. You can't turn the water off with a thermostatic valve. All it does is control the temperature. Then for every outlet that you have, whether it's a main shower head, a rain shower head, a hand shower, every outlet has a volume control. So you set your temperature, and oftentimes people will set their temperature where they like it and just leave it there. They don't really mess with it on a regular basis. They just leave that there. Then to turn your shower head on, you just turn on the secondary volume control. That allows the water to come out exactly the temperature that you want. And what's great about that is if you have your main thermostatic valve set where you want, and you move to that bench in the back, you can then sit down on that bench. No water is running yet. You've set everything up. You take your hand shower. Without getting up, you have that volume control right there by the bench. You turn that on. Let the water warm up to the correct temperature. Then you put it back, sometimes on a slide bar, so you can adjust its height. And you have full access to everything you need from that bench to turn the water on and off. And it's already set at the temperature you like. And that's a great option for people. When they're a little bit worried about mobility, that's the direction we usually send them in.
Yeah. And it's honestly, I think it's important. I mean, if we're building a shower to last, I mean, I had a herniated disc a couple years ago, so I was 49 or something. I mean, I was not retired yet. I'm still very much working, but I will tell you what, I was very immobile, and I was very happy that my shower had the safety bars and the setup, and I do have the volume control and the temperature, the temperature thermostatic valve. The thermostatic valve is really nice because you just leave it. Yeah. You set it and leave it. And that's unless you're married, then you can fight over it. So we could also, in some married couples, honestly, I mean, I know I'm joking, but sometimes we'll do a dual shower.
Sure.
And
you have shower heads on each side of the shower.
It's pretty common here in Florida. There's a lot of big bathrooms, and they'll have like the old. Well, we still do it. It's not old. I don't want to talk bad about it, but the drop-in tub into a tub deck is a very beautiful look. It was very common in the 80s and 90s. And a lot of people now are taking that out and they're switching to a freestanding tub, or they're doing a double shower. They're just getting they're getting rid of the soaking tub. They never use it. And even by survey, I used to be a real estate broker, and one of the survey points was these are used one time a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. I mean, that's that, and that was not for senior citizens. That's for anybody. Yeah. They're not really used. They're used to sell the house. You look at it, and you're like, oh, and you dream of candles and wine and bubble baths and stuff like that, and you buy the house, but you don't use it.
Yeah, when just from talking to people, that's what I found also. Certain people really like to take baths, and for them, they're awesome. And you get, but it's a small percentage of people who really do that regularly. Most often, I'll talk to people, they've been living in the house for 15 years, and like you said, they've used it twice. Like they used it when they first got there, and
Space-wise, basically, if you look at it space-wise, you're taking up those tubs, they're pretty long, and then they have a deck around them, and then you have a small shower. Yeah. So what you're using every day, twice a day, if you're married, right? Yeah. You're using the shower all the time. You're using this once a year or less. As you get older, probably less. But you're probably dedicating 70% of the space, if it's this, whichever way it's angled. So if we just get rid of that, which we do, there's plenty of room. Now, if you want a curbless shower, I mean, that's another thing. Because you don't have to have a curb. Because then if you need to get in there with a wheelchair at some point, you can.
Lots of options on that kind of a thing.
Yeah. But once you go to a double wide shower, you literally can have a his and hers. And that way you can have your own thermostatic valve, you can have your own temperature, and you don't have to mess with your spouse's temperature, and then you can have your own seat. Anyway, and they're very, very attractive too. It's a beautiful to see that much tile.
Yeah.
It really becomes a piece of art in that situation.
Totally
That's
right.
another thing we do. But yeah, we are certified aging in place specialists. I would give it some thought. Like, don't just gauge what you're doing in your design now.
Yes.
Look 10 years down the road. Look 20 years down the road. Like, you're probably going to want to stay in your house as long as possible.
Yeah.
And so that's one. And the other thing is, you might want to consider a bidet seat. You know, it's always uncomfortable to talk about toilets and going to the bathroom and wiping yourself and so forth. But I did a full condo remodel for a doctor who specialized in a rehab center. Mm-hmm. And he said that the number one reason by survey for them that they had people admitted was the customers or the patients were no longer able to wipe themselves, and they didn't want their spouse to do it, or the spouse just finally said, or caretaker. It wasn't always the spouse, it might have been a kid, brother, sister, whatnot, family member, but they finally either said no, they don't want to do that anymore, or just out of, like for my father, when he was passing, he didn't want to have the family members involved in that.
Yeah, no, I remember that survey. Actually, it ties right in with that. The number one fear was loss of independence. I think number two was loss of dignity, and so it ties right in there. And basically, that ability just to take care of yourself is something that a well-designed bathroom really facilitates.
So again, I have an 89-year-old mother-in-law right now, and we did add a bidet seat. And I actually added a wall mount. We did a bunch of work for her, right? Because of course, we own Bathmasters, right? So, we did a good thing, but she was definitely not interested in the bidet seat. Like, definitely, I thought that I was gonna have to just put this in the garage and save it for another time and lose the money on it. But we put it in. My sister-in-law was visiting at the time, helping take care of my mother-in-law. And, she taught her how to use it over a couple-hour period, and she loves it. It is her favorite thing. And that and her grab bar. She's got, I put in these really nice bars for her toilet. The one problem is she never wants to go anywhere. It's uncomfortable for her to go anywhere else and go to the bathroom because she's so used to her system now. She's got the toilet at just the right height. We have a wall mount toilet for her, and then she's got these safety bars, that she can use to get up. And now she has a bidet seat. And it's made life for everybody so much better. And she's able to keep herself clean. And they've got fans so you can dry. They've got heat if you want.
They're great now. And I will tell you, I will just say this. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of them, and a lot of people don't have them and don't use them. I have never met someone who's used one over a period of time who did not love it. So most of the people who don't want it and they haven't tried it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the make break point on them. When people use them, they love them. And and it makes sense to me. I mean, it's just a better clean. And I don't know about everyone else, but my shoulder flexibility at this point is not what it used to be. And so I can only imagine it gets worse.
When I had that herniated disc, I was having some serious issues. I did not have a bidet seat.
Yeah.
And but I will say this is something you have to think about in advance because it needs electrical.
That's right.
Not all of them. There are some where you can do, and there's some, but if you want all the bells and whistles that are available, it's all run on electricity. The heated seat, they have heated water, they have fans, they have deodorizers.
That's right.
Most, like, all the nice ones are going to be electric. So when we're remodeling your bathroom, it's a piece of cake for us to run a wire from your vanity or whatnot. Usually your vanity's nearby and it has power there. So we can run power to that location so that you will have somewhere to plug in this bidet seat in the future.
Yeah.
And there's codes on that, and we have to make sure we follow the codes on where the outlet goes, and it's got to be protected and all that stuff. But if we do it at that point, even if you don't want to add the bidet seat now, at least you've got the power. So you might want to talk to your designer, your salesperson with Bathmasters or whatever company you're using, and have them run the power there.
No, it's a good idea because they do have the cold water bidets, and in Florida, for the most part, you can get away with it. Certainly, if you're in Minnesota, you're not using a cold water bidet. But even in Florida, I can assure you, when the weather dips down into the 50s and 60s, that's a very shocking bidet experience. You're going to want to have a little bit warmer.
And moving forward, I will tell you, the one thing that's really nice about some of these bidets, like the one that I use for my mother-in-law, has a remote. So there's actually a control, because at a certain point, if you gain weight, I come from a large family. We easily gain weight. So if the buttons are on the side or the handle's on the side, you know what I mean, and your vision starts to go, and you're not always wearing your glasses when you're sitting on the toilet, and it might be a little difficult to find the right button or whatever, even if it's a cold water one. You still have to have some kind of manual way that you turn a control, like a hose. You're basically turning it on and turning it off. But it's usually down under your leg and so forth. So one of the nice things about the one that I use for my mother-in-law is it's got controls on the toilet itself, on the toilet seat, but it also has a little remote. It's about half the size of this. It's about that big, and it's got a bunch of functions here. It does about 12 different things, but all my mother-in-law really needs is the 3 that she's got, and you can set it to what you want. You set the temperature of the water you want it. You can set the pressure of the air if you're going to do the air at the end. It can be soft, medium, loud, hot, cold, whatever. And at that point, you basically just push these buttons. So she actually has this, and it's got a little magnet thing, and it goes right on the wall next to her. So it's right here. She pulls it off. She can do that without glasses. And anyway, so we've actually joked about at some point maybe having another brand called Bidet Masters. Because people might not realize it, but this is needed. This can definitely help people keep their independence long term. So that's just one aspect. So we're certain aging in place specialists. So this is the kind of stuff that we are trained to know about. So ask us for any help you need.